Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. As people join, I'd like to welcome you to this month's P&G Alumni Network Enrichment Series webinar. We'll give it one more second before we get into today's topic. I'm excited because I am sharing this virtual stage with four fantastic, fabulous, awesome CEOs, our 2021 Global Business Catapult Finalists. I am your host, Andrea Bowens-Jones, and I have the pleasure of guiding today's conversation. And I'm so excited. But before we get into our topic, there are a few things about our enrichment series that I'd like to share. One, this is a monthly series. The intent is for us to connect as members across the globe and to be inspired, to learn something new, something that we can go back and apply into our everyday work. And what other way to do it than to leverage the expertise that we have in our network. So whether this is your first time attending or you come back every single month, you have the pleasure of hearing from some of the most insightful P&G alumni through the years. And so today will be none other than to continue with that track record. A little bit about our network. We are a nonprofit founded by former P&Gers. Over 35,000 members worldwide with over 45 chapters. We are officially recognized by P&G, and our goal is to connect, enrich, and have opportunities for philanthropy through our P&G Foundation. So I hope you can mark your calendar and join us in November 2023, the 2nd and through the 4th for our first in-person conference and since the pandemic hit. So more information will be coming shortly, but you can expect it to be full of keynotes, panels, opportunities to network with former P&Gers as well as invited guests that we have coming. So more information can be found on our website, and you can look to your emails to receive additional information in the coming months. So a little bit about today's webinar. You may notice the only people on the screen is myself and our speakers today. It is in webinar mode, but you can interact. So we encourage you throughout today's presentation to drop your questions into the chat function, the Q&A function. I'll be checking it periodically through our discussion as an opportunity for you to get your questions asked. And our panelists will be open to sharing their contact information, at least some of them will, if you have questions that we can't get to within the hour. But please don't hold them. This is what will make the interaction so exciting. So I have the pleasure of having a fireside chat, and today's conversation is really about understanding the technologies and the journey that our Catapult finalists have been on for the past year. So with that being said, this is going to be a little bit different than previous webinars if you've tuned in. So we'll spend some time giving each of our panelists the opportunity to share a little bit about their technologies, and then we will open it up to questions and have an interactive portion of our program. So I'd like to start with our first panelist today, which will be Andre Stoltz. A little bit about Andre. He's CEO of EcoWorth Tech. He's a managing director of Budding Innovations. He's an agile executive and innovative leader with over 20 years international experience in venture building, strategy and innovation leadership, startups, management, initiative and portfolio management, engineering, product development, supply chain, and manufacturing. With that being said, I'll turn it over to you, Andre, to talk about EcoWorth.
Yeah, thanks so much, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm representing today EcoWorth Tech, which is a Singapore-based clean tech startup company. It has been founded by Dr. Bud Grob and myself, so we're actually two ex-P&G folks. And EcoWorth Tech is focusing on sustainable water remediation and waste to worth, or circular economy. And we are addressing the global issue of inefficient water treatment, especially of water that contains oils and other organics. We are addressing tightening legislation, and also we are addressing the push from corporates with their CSR programs to reuse the resources. And EcoWorth Tech has developed an environmentally friendly super absorbent sponge technology that is ultra efficient in absorbency of a wide range of liquid organics like oils, grease, fats, dyes, and solvent from wastewater. And the way we do it is, and we are of course focusing on really closing the circular economy loop, and we've made since last year quite some progress in qualifying the different type of feedstock that we could use to produce our material. So besides cotton and kapok as renewable materials, we have qualified now fruit bunches, empty fruit bunches from palm oil trees, which are very abundant here in Southeast Asia, husks and fibers. And we've also successfully converted waste paper and waste carton for the production of our CFA material. And the production is actually carbon negative, and we sequester the carbon. So that's one way of how we can help to decarbonize. And then we use the material to treat water. And of course, not only with the focus on extracting the organics, and of course also to clean the water. And even the UCFA then has another application as a fertilizer. And with that, really, we are closing the loop. And thanks for playing the video. So we've been incorporating this material into our first commercial product. It's an industrial heavy-duty filter that is specifically designed for oil refineries. And in the video, you can see how we were preparing in the lab a very highly contaminated oil-water mixture of about 60,000 ppm. And then pumping it through our filter. Filter is our material in an exchangeable cartridge, and we are almost capable of removing up to 100% of the oil, and the filtrate is really clear. And this filter and the material has been tested extensively by an oil refinery here in Southeast Asia. And we've been validating that the filter works more reliably, much longer, and even during process spikes. And our first paying customer is enjoying a stunning 40x return on investment. And that is, of course, for us, the opportunity to enter the beachhead market. So we are currently looking to get this filter installed into many more oil refineries in order for them to achieve the reliable treatment and cleanup of the oil. We've also been incorporating this material into various other oil removing solutions like booms, sorbent pads, etc. And we are also looking for partners that help us validate the solution in a real environment. So, for example, in process oil traps, interceptors, or in the open sea, where we've recently also completed some trial with the maritime business. Of course, and that's quite important for companies in scale-up stage. We are looking for funding of up to 4 million Singapore dollar, which is equivalent to about $3 million to go to full commercial sales. And either you know somebody that needs our filter, you know somebody that can help us enter these companies, or if somebody of you wants to help fund us, please engage with us. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Andre. Next, we have Steve Meller. Steve is a US-based entrepreneur, investor, innovator, founder, and board advisor after several successful years in corporate, 18 plus years in executive position and academia, where he spent over 17 years in research and scientific academic positions. I'll turn it over to you, Steve, to talk about CH4 Global.
Thank you. We're a bit of a strange company. This week and next week, you probably will have all noticed that the world's leaders are meeting in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh, to talk about at what's called COP27, Conference of the Parties. And there are 45,000 people there to sit and talk about how we're going as a planet and how climate change is impacting us in an uncontrollable way. It's not going well, best way to put it. The talks have just started, so we'll see how they go. I have low expectations. But we have a big problem that's really headed our way in terms of the rising greenhouse gases that are going on, both from carbon dioxide, which is where the big focus has been on reducing fossil fuel usage, but also on methane. And methane is now agreed that is one of the most important things that we can address here in the next decade because of its intensity, 86 times more than carbon dioxide on its impact. What we're doing is addressing that methane. The single world's largest source of methane, anthropogenic methane, that which we produce, is from burping cows. And we've uncovered, so we call ourselves a climate tech company. We're focused on impact, gigaton scale of reductions of impact that are required for the world to meet its goals. And with urgency before 2030, because there are some major tipping points on the planet that will fundamentally change weather patterns and impact us as humanity. But we sit in a unique place. We leverage aquaculture. We grow a very unique species of red seaweed on land in controlled conditions. And we use that at a very small amount, less than 0.5% in cattle. It works also in other ruminants, but in cattle particularly, to dramatically lower their methane emissions by 90+%. And concomitantly, it also increases the productivity of those same animals. They make more protein, more beef, or more milk. These are both good things for us. If you could flip to the next slide, please, Andrea. I spend my life as the CEO raising money. It's common to all of us. It may come up in the conversations. And the last 12 months for us is really the middle bullet point. We raised about 15 million US in what was our Series A, and that's allowed us to build out the scale. We've now introduced the world's first commercial product in June this year. Anywhere in the world that has this impact in cattle, we're continuing to build that scale in here. We've filed some of the key intellectual property methods around the production side of it that ends up being able to lower COGS, making it profitable, making it scalable by up to tenfold. We're in the process right now of raising a Series B. As I said, I spend my life doing this. It's $85 million, and it's really to scale out very large impact across all of the financial metrics that we would normally use. So that's life for us, and I think we'll get into some interesting questions about how we get there. So thank you.
And next we have Benoit Tas, CEO of Neuropath, empowering people with Parkinson and their care team. He is an entrepreneur and creative leader with international experience, backed by solid finance skills and a strong, diverse background in blue chip consumer goods companies, private equity, and turnarounds of medium-sized companies. And I'll turn it over to you, Benoit.
Thank you very much. What we want to do with Neuropath is basically to fundamentally change the care path of people living with Parkinson's disease to increase their quality of life at an overall lower burden, both economically and physical burden for everybody around that patient. Now, as a reminder, Parkinson's is the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease, and the current care path consists in 2-3 visits a year at a neurologist. Sometimes it's even worse. In the US, between 2012 and 2016, 58% of people diagnosed with Parkinson's had not even seen a neurologist. So if you can move to the next page, please. So what we're doing, and this is the most of what we've done last year, is develop our product so it's now commercially ready, is throughout that patient journey, we basically provide a holistic digital health platform for patients and caregivers and clinicians that supports interdisciplinary collaboration and also personalized treatment efficacy. And we're purely a software company, so to collect data, we only use a smartphone, and if people with Parkinson's would care to wear one, a wearable. And so by doing so, we let the patient and their companions report symptoms. We analyze, we categorize, we alert the clinicians for abnormal events or evolutions and risks. And then we support clinical decisions because we provide information that is currently not available to those clinicians today. And so it's a digital twin that combines, on the one hand side, these patient-reported outcomes on motor symptoms and non-motor symptoms, medication intake, clinically validated questionnaires on quality of life, with, on the other hand, on the other side of the slide, objective biomarkers on health, such as your heartbeat, your blood pressure, your sleep quality. But then also we have proprietary technology on markerless motion analysis. So we capture a video with a smartphone. The patient can do that himself or herself. It's uploaded in our cloud and it's immediately analyzed and released to the platform for clinicians and movement disorder specialists or physical therapists to see, with the appropriate analyses of the movement parameters such as amplitudes or velocities or angles of limbs, etc. And we also do that, which is still under development, with speech. So basically, we provide exercises to the people with Parkinson's that they can do at home on their smartphone. We extract biomarkers of the voice. And so both these tools, both these technologies allow for not only for remote patient monitoring, but also for remote patient therapy. And so where we are today is we're now raising 3 million to accelerate our business development mainly, and in some ways our product development. We're focusing on the UK and the US. In the UK, we are signing a first commercial agreement with the first Center for Integrated Care of Parkinson's disease. And so in order to accelerate that growth, we are raising that 3 million.
Thank you. And our final panelist to speak today, went too far there, is Victor Hugo Manzanilla. He's a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, and CEO of Microsalt. I'll turn it over to you, Victor, to talk about your technology.
Yeah, it's Microsalt, not Microsoft. That will be a different game, right? Yes. Hi, I'm very excited to be here. And, what I will say is that, if you see all the, big health issues that we have right now, cardiovascular disease is, the biggest cause of death globally. And there is a correlation between high sodium consumption and high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease. So, we are not saying high sodium consumption is the main reason, but it's a big reason of all the death that we have every day due to cardiovascular disease. In fact, the FDA made an estimate of if we are able to reduce sodium consumption, we're going to save between 25,000 to 50,000 lives in the US a year. So it's a big problem, and it's a problem that is not easy to solve because people are used to put salt in their foods. People love, flavor foods. And that's what we get in with Microsalt. So Microsalt is a company where we have a patent to a process to develop the smallest grain of salt on earth. And what we do is we basically are able to create this nano-size particle of salt that when it touches your tongue, it dissolves immediately. So you get a high sensation of saltiness with very little sodium. So if you see it in a way, what we are doing is we are maximizing, we're making salt the most efficient possible. So you only eat the less amount of salt you need to get the full flavor. We believe that it's going to be very hard for people to follow what governments are trying people to do, which is, hey, just eat less salt. We don't think that's going to happen. We think that we need to find a solution to be able to deliver the same flavor that people love, but with much less sodium. And, unfortunately, or let's say fortunately, right now, there is no other solution because, other companies have been trying to use potassium chloride and some other type of substitutes, but at the end, it's not the same flavor as salt. So if you see Microsalt, we want to become like the Splenda of salt, but we are really salt. We just a mechanical change in the particle that makes that nano-sized particle of salt deliver a full flavor when you eat it. So that's what Microsalt is in a nutshell. And I know we're going to talk more about where we are and what our vision is in the future. But I want to just everyone to know a little bit about the technology and what it means.
Thank you. That is a great start to today's discussion. So if you are in the attending, you don't have to wait. If you missed that part of my introduction, you can drop your questions in the chat. But I want to go ahead and at least start by saying congratulations to all of you guys, because one, not only to be finalists, but to solve some of these big problems that you're going after that are not just impactful for a few people, but the entire planet. I want to start off our discussion with one question about, because we kind of alluded to it a little bit, about where you are versus now versus where you were last year this time. Now, I know, Victor, your organization went on to win the Catapult. So kind of, why don't you kick us off and kind of talk about that a bit, is about the journey over the last year.
Yes. Okay, that's great. So, last year we were in a point where we were launching. So let me take a step back. One thing that happened to us is that as we developed Microsalt, when we started Microsalt, it was just a patent. It was just something that was proof in the lab. So the big step that we did, I'll say 2 years ago, was how we make Microsalt, a product that is actually, that we can sell and use everywhere. And as we were doing that, the technology was so new, and people really were very surprised about, when you see salt that is like powder, people don't get it. So we decided to start doing, let's do our own product. So we know our big north in our business is going to be B2B. So we want to sell Microsalt to snack manufacturers, for example. But we decided to do our own snack. So we launched this Salty brand. And last year when we were doing the Catapult, we did that because we wanted people to try it. It's very hard for people to try salt, but it's very easy for people to get a snack, eat it, and say, wow, like this tastes exactly like, Lay's or any other competitor, but it has 50 or 60% less sodium. So that became a very successful line of business in the last year. We have right now we are over 2,000 stores. We are in about like 7 or 8 big chains. So that became a big line of business. And the other thing that happened was that as we were promoting this as a B2B business, a lot of people came and say, I have, I need a low sodium diet, but I don't want to eat a snack. How I can use Microsalt in my home. And we didn't have a plan to develop a B2C product, but we start seeing in our shows and in our expos that we were doing that, we were getting a lot of questions about it. So we launched our first shaker, which you can use Microsalt at home. And that is being very successful. And I'll say we're in the stage of talking with buyers and getting distribution. We are not yet on shelves, but we have had a big pull for that, because if you see the salt category, it's a salt that has had not a lot of innovation in the past decade. The only thing that has come in the past decade is more like these premium salts, like Himalayan salts and, these premium things. But like day-to-day salt use that is really a 50% less sodium is not. So right now, to close is, we are very focused on B2B. We have big clients. We have 3 Fortune 500 that are about to hopefully, close a deal with us that will change the game completely for us. We have the salty chips that are growing, and we have this new launch of a B2C product, a salt shaker that everyone will be able to enjoy in their homes. By mid 2023, everybody should see it in shelves.
Awesome. Who's next? Talk about that journey over the past year.
Good. Our journey has been a bit mixed, I would say, since last year. On one side, we've been able to really develop our first commercial product, that superior oil filter for oil refineries. And that was a breakthrough, especially during the pandemic, where we were not really getting access to the sites in order to conduct a pilot plan. But with one client, we were able to still do so. And now over the last year, we've been trying to get our filter installed so that other oil refinery clients can validate the benefits that the solution brings. And we now see a more opening of the situations, but in Southeast Asia, until very long time, and still sometimes now, we have not been able to access the sites in order to conduct these pilots. And that is something where in parallel then we've been able to develop additional solutions, right? So we also don't just sit there and wait, but we've been developing some other oil removing solutions for maritime, which has been a bit more open along the way. And I think with that now we have a really good chance to provide a solution offering for various oily water treatment solutions. So we're quite excited on the next couple of months.
Benoit, your journey.
Well, the biggest developments for us the last year has really been on the product side. On the one hand, building a solid back office which complies with the latest healthcare standards, because people expect our systems to be interoperable, obviously to comply with all the privacy that is involved in health data, etc., etc. Plus, we've been testing in Belgium and in the UK with patients and neurologists. And so what I've learned from my time at P&G is you have to listen to your consumer and your customer. This is the big takeaway. So we've been listening a lot since we started Neuropath to the patients and their clinicians, but we've actually been able now to put the product in their hands so they can test it. And so I'm always referring to I started my career at Procter & Gamble in fast-moving consumer goods. I can say healthcare is probably the slowest moving industry I've ever worked in. So that's a bit of a bummer. I wish it would go faster, and it's slow for good reasons, obviously, because you're dealing with the health of people, and you're dealing with a lot of regulatory systems, and you're dealing with a lot of encrusted care paths that will need to change anyways. I mean, that's a given. So it's just a matter of when is going to be the tipping point for traditional care paths to move into more digital, patient-centric care paths for real, not just lip service, but for real. And when are the reimbursement systems gonna be aligned with that vision? So that's next on our steps. So the good news is that we are signing this deal in the UK with a center that is basically applying and implementing under one roof an interdisciplinary team to treat Parkinson's people. So it's an excellent first customer.
Awesome. All right, round us out, Steve. That journey over the last year. Then we're going to.
I talked a little bit about ours, but the first couple of years of our company was really about understanding the biology of this seaweed organism, how we could manage to grow it at massive scale, how we would process it, how we would formulate it and package it. Now, there was a whole bunch of, past P&G expertise that was relevant. And so, in fact, a number of retirees have come and joined me with the company during that sort of development phase. And the last year for us has really been about the focus on the commercialization and telling the world that this is no longer an R&D experiment sitting there, that product that has an impact on cattle, that has a major impact. The cattle, the 1.5 billion cattle around the world, beef and dairy, produce more of an impact than the entire emissions of the country of China, than the entire emissions of the US, the EU 27, and India put together. So it's a massive impact. It's also a massive opportunity. And so that opportunity has really been great for us. So we've been able to leverage it. We've now hopefully coming to the end stages of raising a very large amount of capital now to build out the scaled infrastructure. We've aligned partners now for that. We're working with sort of three types of customers. Customer A would be an entire country whose economic and GDP industries are dependent on agriculture, and in particular on cattle. And I won't name them, but there are several around the world who are have a high level of focus on how do they impact the entire industry. The second type of customer are people in the value chain. They may produce the seeds that grow the crops that cattle eat on a global basis, all the way through to consumer products that contain beef or milk or derivatives of milk like chocolate and ice cream and yogurt and cheese, the things that we all enjoy on their supermarket shelves, and their customers, their consumers, are demanding low carbon impact products. And so that value chain and all the way along there, and we have a number of major corporations in that value chain who we're starting to now work with to build the scale. And the third is companies who want or need true removal carbon offsets. And again, if you spend any time in this part of the industry, you'll see that many companies and many countries have no chance of meeting their set goals for climate reduction, greenhouse gas reductions. And the term greenwashing is used very, very widely. So we actually will produce true removal credits, highly valuable, and we're going through a third-party validation. And so some of the largest companies on the planet responsible for greenhouse gases are now engaged with us because they see what we're doing as a way to not greenwash, but not only to create value in offsets, but also potentially to create a complete new industry that could be in their country. So it's been a wild ride. We've brought on a couple more really experienced P&G folks from the commercial side in here, and it's been a great journey for that. So,
thank you. And you spoke. I want to just park it right there for a second. You spoke a little bit about leveraging the expertise within the P&G alumni network. Can you speak a little bit more about that? And if anybody else have kind of leveraged the network what has been your experience with it?
Sure. I had the privilege, obviously, of working with P&G as we all did, and I took an early retirement 10 years ago, almost exactly last week. And the people that I grew up with, primarily in both healthcare and then sort of the business development, connect and develop R&D sides of things, we built products, whether it was qualification of them on analytical chemistry or building the scale and formulations. This is all the stuff that we did across many different categories. And so the ability to reach back into people that I'd worked with for decades, who had skills and capabilities that were critical for what we needed to do when we're formulating this processed seaweed into a final product that'll be consumed by cattle. How do we do that? How do we ensure that we have the right stability ways and we'll manage around the regulatory pathways? And so those folks have joined us and come on board. Again, generally retirees, people that I would have worked with for decades, or now my extended team. And so we've been able to reach back into the company, partly because we're on a mission to really make a huge impact in terms of environmental and social impact on what we do. But and everybody's, sitting there thinking of my kids, my family, what am I going to leave the world to so I can contribute in some way? And for us, it's been fantastic. So whenever we need something, even if it's a month's worth of consulting on something, on packaging, we can go back in. We know who that person is. We've had long-term relationships with them, and they're more than willing to help. So it's one of our largest commercial advantages over anyone else in this space is having that access. So, and
I will add to that similar. Our COO for Microsalt is a former P&G. Our sales VP is a former P&G, and one of our board members is also a former P&G. And I feel that tapping to the network is a amazing resource for those relationship that you have built, and also knowing P&G people has a structure of thinking, and I think that something that P&G has done very well is to train us on how to think, how to communicate, and how to solve problems. And I feel that skill set is very powerful. So we have leverage a lot.
And I want to take a jump and segue to from your companies and your experience to talk about you as entrepreneurs for a bit. And anybody can answer this question. Why do you do what you do? Just flat out, why do you do it? Anybody? What personally drives you to do what you do?
The question I wake up with every day, to be honest.
It's hard work. Yeah, it's hard work doing what you do. So yeah, I want to know.
And the single most reason why I'm doing it is because I believe there's a tremendous opportunity to help people with Parkinson's. Mm-hmm. And whenever I talk to a person with Parkinson's or to his family, there's a crying need for people like Neuropath to provide them with tools so they can tell their story. Basically, I mean, that's what it all boils down to. How can I tell my story other than just going to a neurologist twice a year with maybe a written diary, or maybe for the more sophisticated patients, an Excel spreadsheet where they note down things, which, again, they don't have an impact really. But if we can provide them with a simple smartphone where they can really report their story, I will not say it differently, their symptoms, their worries, their progression, for the clinicians to see and act upon, so intervene quicker in the care path, it's been scientifically proven that that improves quality of life. So that's the single most reason why I'm doing it.
Yes.
Very
I
nice.
have to get you out of bed. Who's next? Anybody?
I'll tell you a little bit in my story. When I left corporate America, let's say this way, it was because I had a book that did very well. So I didn't need a salary. So I started this life where I was going to the beach every day, and I was like retired, and I was super happy. I thought that I was going to be. And after like 3 weeks, I became extremely bored, and I felt that I didn't have a purpose. And, you know, it's interesting because we tend to think when we are in P&G or we are in these, you know, high intense environments that, I just want to retire and I want to go to the beach and I want to like just relax. And that's cool for a week or two, but no more. And when that happened to me, I realized inside me that I had a passion to create stuff, and I became very passionate about entrepreneurship, and you know how entrepreneurs are people that are really making big changes in the world, from their small offices, garages, you know, whatever they are in their homes. And you know, even when you see companies like P&G, where you have, you know, somebody in R&D in a small cubicle solving a big issue, he's being an entrepreneur, you know, inside a big corporation. So I feel that smallness of changing the world from like something very little, I will say brought back life to me from the point that I was like a very bored to really get to a point where I'm excited again about life and about doing something with some purpose, right? So when I face every day the challenges of entrepreneurship, because it's not a beautiful like every day, it's a very complex and very stressful world. I always remember how bored I was when I was, you know, my 3rd week on the beach, and I come back and say, you know, doing something amazing is tough, and you need to fall in love with that process of making, and that's the reason is just to have like that energy inside me.
Yeah, it's got to be something that drives you.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to jump on that one? Why do you do what you do?
Right. I think similar to Victor, slightly different. The picture behind me is where I live. That's Las Vegas. We don't live down on the Strip, to be clear. We live, you can see there's a golf course in front of me. We have a wonderful swimming pool. And like Victor, I retired and I could choose to do whatever I wanted, live wherever I wanted. And for the most part, my wife and I have. And I spent 5 or 6 years with Fortune 100 companies, governments around the world, helping them think about disruptive innovation and sustainability. But it wasn't particularly fulfilling. Financially, it was fine, but it wasn't personally fulfilling. And through a series of serendipitous events, the ability and the opportunity to start this company of CH4 Global that could have a major impact in a time when nobody knew about methane, nobody cared about methane, and really building the impetus to now where it is the key greenhouse gas that as a planet we have to be able to address. And here we are with a platform to address the single largest source at a point of commercial viability. So what drove me through all of that period of time was, again, very similar to Victor, have a purpose. You know, I'm 62 now. I don't have to do this. I do this and I spend 18 hours a day doing this because I can. And I've assembled an incredible team who can, and I think almost uniquely, address this at a commercial scale. The skills and backgrounds from 30-year veterans at P&G who are on my leadership team, it's incredible. And we added it up the other day because an investor wanted to know. So just on my leadership team, the key C executives, 200 years plus of experience, not all from P&G, but in creating 40 new global brands, 50 different categories, many with, category sales over $1 billion across healthcare, food and beverage, personal care, cleaning, corporate sustainability. The team and the diversity and the knowledge and the skills that have been learned is we're one of the only groups that can actually do what we're doing and be nimble enough to do it. So that's what keeps me going and drives me every day. It's an incredibly fulfilling journey. I have to say, it's not for the faint of heart for anyone out there that wants to be an entrepreneur, but it's worth the journey. So
yes,
beautiful.
I feel it. Anything you want to add, Andre, before I go?
Yeah, so for me, I left the corporate world with the objective to make an even bigger impact, right? Not that the impact in P&G was small. You bring meaningful innovation at the same time to many, many consumers, right? But I felt like, okay, I want to make a bigger impact to environment and society. And of course, the water problem is a huge problem. And I wanted to take the skills and the expertise that I've learned within P&G is raffling resources together, building the teams, turning ideas into products and solutions, just to a whole next level. And with neither my co-founder nor me having an expertise in water treatment, we saw an opportunity to really, based on an amazing material, to build solutions around it. And what we've learned in P&G about open innovations, we live this day in and day out, and that's, I think, the beauty where you connect clients, stakeholders, investors, partners together. You build your team, and that is, I think, just an amazing journey and keeps me going. And yes, I was working hard in P&G, but I think I work so much harder now.
Yes.
But I feel more energized. I feel much more energized, and that is what keeps me going. And just with all of you on trying to make that bigger impact.
Yes, I love that. So many themes there from impact. And it's amazing that, you would be so tired when you work for P&G after maybe a 10-hour workday. But now when you're working for yourself on something bigger, it's amazing where you get that energy to work those 18-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk a little bit about risk, because that is something that is a commonality, a common trait among all of you, and actually anybody in the innovation space. But in particular, the entrepreneur journey, and I think you alluded to that in your discussions, it's challenging. It's ups and it's downs, and sometimes the downs are like, man, should I be doing this kind of question? How have you managed risk? And in particular, and when you respond to this question, advice to someone who may be contemplating, and this is the thing that they're afraid of, is the risk that you have to take on this entrepreneurial journey. Toss up. Anybody can start this discussion.
Well, the single advice I could give is when you start a venture, build a war chest financially for yourself, whether it's 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, depending on the business you're in, and then double or triple that to make sure that you actually survive. Of course, it depends on the type of venture. It depends on how much money you can raise from the start, etc. But I think Steve was mentioning that it's a full-time job raising money, right? And it is, and it's even understated. It's more than a full-time job, to be honest. So that is very important to realize when you become an entrepreneur. It always costs more, and it always lasts longer than you think. Okay, and obviously you hear all the success stories, and then the 98% failures you don't hear about. So again, depending on your personal situation, think about putting together a war chest and draw a line in the sand. Draw a line in the sand as to when to say no or stop.
That's good advice. I had to copy those nuggets down. Yeah.
I'll say to add to that point is that I feel that P&G train us very well into manage risk, and I will say this because when you get into the entrepreneur world outside, you see a lot of BS on what an entrepreneur life will be, right? And you will hear a lot about about freedom and being on the beach while your business is growing, right? And the 3 secrets and the 3 steps and the 2 things you need to know that nobody knows, right? And I'll say that and all that story can misguide you into feeling that how Paulo Coelho said in his book, like, the universe will align for you to achieve your dreams. And in reality, at least in my experience, okay, when I say reality, I talk about my experience, it's totally the opposite. It's not, the universe doesn't align, it disaligns, right? And you need to be prepared to manage that. So I agree 100% that you need to always think about plan A, B, and C, and you need to be financially prepared, and you need to understand what happens if things take longer. And that planning and that strategy, which we learned a lot about P&G when we went through the simple process, it was all a process of risk management and when the business is open to risk more and more and more, right? As you get more data and more information. So if we develop a mindset like that and not a mindset of I'm just going to jump to entrepreneurship because this is my dream and this is what I want to do, like, I think you will be fine. But I 100% agree that and I was meeting with a friend that he's a big entrepreneur, super successful. And he was talking about an idea. And he says, 90 to 98, as he was saying, 90% of the business fail. So I need to assume from the beginning that I have a 90% chance that my idea is wrong. So instead of going to the other side of like, I am in love of my idea because it's like my baby, my son is the most beautiful son in the world. It's like, no, there is a 90% chance that I'll be wrong. So let me manage this step by step. Let me learn from the customer. Let me get all this information so I can give all these, steps in the right way, in a more secure way. And the last thing I will say is that, and this is just also a change of perspective, is that when you move from P&G to entrepreneurship, one thing that I think psychologically or mentally is a work that everybody needs to do is to start enjoying the uncertainty. We tend to be in a position of, we kind of know certainty and we're going to have our salary and we're going to have, and we know our projects and we know, a lot of certainty in our life. And when you move to entrepreneurship, you start to manage a lot of uncertainty. And one thing that really changed the game for me was start seeing uncertainty as an adventure. And when you go for a trip, when you go on a vacation and it's like an adventure, you are excited about what you don't know. And you are excited to discover what you don't know. So, if we keep that mindset of we need to have full certainty, you're going to not enjoy the entrepreneur world. It's better that you stay in a corporate job. So I feel if you are able to balance both things, which means I have a process of plan A, plan B, plan C, and I'm building this. I'm taking more risks as I get more information, but in parallel, you start enjoying and getting in love with the journey of the adventure. You will really enjoy being an entrepreneur, right? And I think that's where the secret is.
Finding that sweet spot in the middle of that. Love that. Anybody else? What about this thing about mindset? You were about to say something there, Steve?
Yeah, I just want to, so I agree with risk is something that I have lived my entire life by, take pretty well always take the road less traveled. It makes it more interesting. But now as I've gone through an academic career, a corporate career, and now, in the midst of an entrepreneurial career, the opposite way to what usually people do, but the ability to leverage knowledge and skills has been great. The additional piece I would just share is make sure you attain some form of work-life balance. You have to do that. It keeps you mentally fueled, right? You can become nourished in the benefits that you can derive from your personal life. Just be careful that you don't spend all of your waking minutes and every waking minute only on your entrepreneurial journey. You'll burn yourself out well before you should. So just make sure you keep some level of balance. It's very different for everybody, but it's really important to do that. So
yes, and if you don't, just go to
that's a good point.
Go ahead.
That's a good point, Steve. Yes, and to add on that, I mean, it's entrepreneurship is a journey, right? You have to enjoy each step of the journey. It's not a race. You have to be in there for the long term as well. So you have to find a way to stay physically fit, mentally fit. You have to enjoy the certain uncertainty, try out new things, stay damn positive, pull yourself up even things don't go well. And honestly, I've been probably a bit scared at the beginning, but as long as your mindset is there and you push each other in the team. Also, don't make it a journey that's only on your own. So there's always some supporters that are going with you through the journey, and then just make sure you're in there for the longer term, right? Because none, I think, of our innovation is something that you can pull and launch within a year. So that's why staying physically, mentally healthy is damn important.
And I love that addition to it as well. Now that we are rounding, I can't believe it, almost down to the last 5 minutes. I wanted to shift gears a little bit to talk about this mindset, because you guys kind of set the stage in talking about risk. Did you have to shift your mindset as you walked away from whether the corporate space or the academic space or wherever you came from to kind of lead the organizations that you're leading now? And if so, how did you?
I'll tell you the biggest surprise negatively for me in the mind thing was the loneliness. I'm an introvert person, and so I didn't think I need a lot of people surrounding me. But I need that. I realized later that. So when I left the corporate world and I was in my home working in my project, with weeks, I started feeling like so lonely that it really affected me. And I had to work actively into building a network of other entrepreneurs, because the problem is that people that are employed, they are working, so you cannot call them at 9, 10 a.m. You cannot have lunch with them. But I had to purposely find a network of friends or entrepreneurs that we will have lunch, coffees, calls, because I needed to build that. And as I was able to get into an office and I was able to hire a team, I was able to fulfill that part. But I for me, that loneliness was very difficult, and I was not expecting that at all. I thought I was going to be super fine being by myself, and it didn't work that well.
That's good. It's a good one. Anybody else? Yes, Steve.
Let me, in that same vein, I'm going to add a dimension. Again, I hadn't thought too much about through most of my career, but now I've got currently 25 employees who are not retirees, who do not have a fallback position, who are dependent on me. And they're dependent upon me for, their income and their future. And in the next round of funding, as we complete that, we'll probably add another 25 to 35 employees. That's something that I hadn't really thought much about. When you're in P&G, great, you've got people on teams reporting to you or in your organization. But at the end of the day, you're not signing their check. You're not raising the money to ensure you have it. You're not looking at the longevity of the company, of how those people don't have to now be looking for another job 12 months later because you couldn't be successful. That's an added pressure that often people don't think about or internalize. And that's one that's always on my mind. And it's a really important, again, in that life balance. And as Victor was talking, I'm fortunate that I have an incredible wife who I can sit and talk to about what's going on. And she's a great sounding board, and not there to try to problem solve, but listen in the right way, I think, as Victor said, and that's been an incredible benefit for me personally. But that added dimension of other people's lives are in your hands is really an important piece of being an entrepreneur just to keep in mind as you grow your business.
That's good. I love both of those pieces. And thank you for sharing. One last question before we wrap up today's discussion. And we're going to do this like rapid fire. How has being a Global Catapult finalist impacted you or the mission of your organization over the last year? These will be our last and final question.
I mean, I'll say that in our case, at first, it drove a lot of excitement inside the team. When we became finalists, the whole competition helped us drive a lot of excitement inside the we have a small team, but they were like very, very excited about it. I'll say also that, the practice of being prepared for each of the meetings help us refine our pitch and refine our offer. And for me, one of the biggest thing after, the competition was finished was the, being able to leverage being a finalist of a P&G alumni organization in order to get doors open to new investors group. Because, somehow when you throw the name, P&G, and that you were a finalist of, 83 companies globally, and they pick these 4, like that opened a lot of doors for us to get and pitch to new people. So I'll say those 3 things really help us a lot.
Anybody else want to add? Or
I'll add, for us, it's probably been slightly different. It was because of the heavy stacking, so to speak, of a significant part of my team from P&G. It's certainly rewarding, knowing all of what the company does and how it thinks about it. So personally, for each of us, I think it was great, and recognition that we were doing something important that others were able to recognize in the company. We're able to leverage the company in many ways, as I explained, just because of the capabilities that we've built within there. And so for us, it was more of the personal satisfaction and recognition that work we'd trained for decades really was able to be recognized more broadly within the community. So that was great. So,
okay. Well, this has been awesome. And I thank you so much for your time today. We're just going to wrap up with a few announcements, and then we will be on our way. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And for joining us. And all of our 90-day happenings of what will happen over the next several weeks can be found on our website as well. And you can connect with us through pgalums.com. Or if you'd like to be a part, join, or start a chapter, you can email us at hello@pgalums.com. Today's session has been recorded, and the recording will be put on the YouTube channel. You can like, share, comment there, follow us so that you don't miss any of the videos that will be posted. With that, I'd like to say thanks again for joining us for this month, and congratulations for the journeys that you guys are on. Best of luck as you move forward. Have a great day.
thank you.
Bye. Thank you.